Good morning. Welcome to the Bible for breakfast. This morning we're continuing in chapter 2 of Proverbs, and we're going to pick up in verse 10. When wisdom enters your heart and knowledge is pleasant to your soul, discretion will preserve you. Discretion here is the ability to tell something then when something's off. I discern some things not right. To deliver you from the way of evil, from the man who speaks perverse things. So it's like a warning flag that goes up in your mind, in your heart. You're able to uh, see that something is awry. To deliver you from the way of evil, from the man who speaks perverse things, perverted things, from those who leave the paths of righteousness. In other words, these are the people who go into the ditch. These are the people who try to bankrupt you and take your uh, distort the path that you're on and try to get you to do evil, to walk the ways of darkness. In other words, go back into the world, become worldly again. The devices of the world, the attempts of the world to corrupt you, who rejoice in doing evil and delight in the perversity of the wicked. They'll tell you it's the best plan for you, but in their heart, they know that their devices are geared at your destruction, whose ways are crooked. Now, in the Bible, it says we're always to, when the king was coming, we're to make the paths straight. In our lives, also, we're to look to the straight path of getting from point A to point B. Shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So we don't want to deviate and go to the left, to the right, up and down, backward, forward, and get messed up in our path. We want to just go straight to where we need to be. And sometimes for believers in prayer, it's to the throne of grace. In your life of decisions, it's to trust in the Lord with all your heart. So it's a directional attitude that we're to develop and have. Who are devious in their paths, to deliver you from the immoral woman. So again, if we have discretion, we'll be able to see the plots and the ploys of Satan that want to trap us. Now, I think here, when Solomon wrote this, he had in mind the Moabite women who were trying to get the nation of Israel to fall before they crossed in the promised land. That's my personal opinion. From the immoral woman, from the seductress who flatters with her words. Now, again, here's another point. No one should have known more about women and their deviousness than Solomon, with all his wives and concubines, and the way that they turned his heart uh, away from the things of God. So he was a man who was pretty well educated in the way of the devious, immoral woman who forsakes the companion of her youth and listen, forgets the covenant of her God. In other words, she puts it out of her mind, she puts it out of her heart, she turns away from it, and she ignores it. It's no longer a part of her life. All her selfishness is the main focus. Only a me person. For her house leads down to death, and her paths to the dead. None who go to her return, nor do they regain the paths of life. Now, how can this be seen? Once she has deceived you and tricked you with her immorality and devious ways, it's almost as though she stains your heart, and you'll never return. That's what the proverb is saying. Watch out for this, because it's a path that leads to destruction, and once you're on that path, you won't be able to find your way out of that path, off that path, to the right path anymore. so you may walk the way of goodness and keep the paths of the righteous. Why do we have discernment? Give us a warning, give us instruction, give us direction, so we're not tripped up. For the upright will dwell in the land, and the blameless will remain in it. But the wicked will be cut off from the earth, and the unfaithful will be uprooted from it. Let's just take, for instance, um, evolution. Now, I don't know what your feelings are on evolution and if it's scientific or not, whatever your opinions are. But all I know is that evolution can lead a person astray from the course of life that says, in the beginning, God created. Evolution removes that. Well, what about if God created evolution? That's not the point. The point is this: in the beginning, God created. We don't see God said, and he started with a lump of coal and developed it into a man, or he started with a lizard and turned it into a bird. We don't see that. But evolutionary theory means that something has developed beyond its original intent or its original position. So that's one of those things that leads you off course. Okay, here's another one for the young man. Let's live together. He sees the girl. Let's live together. They live together. They consummate their sin, uh, and there's no desire for any lasting commitment, as much as there is a an attitude of, if it doesn't work, we don't have to do it anymore. There's no commitment. There's no dedication. There's no real purpose other than other than pleasure, sexual pleasure, deviant pleasure. Uh, if there's an attachment, well, we're going to try it for a while and then we're going to get married. Well, that's no commitment. That's like saying, I can, I'll be a vegan until I discover something better, something to that end. Now, uh, maybe not that deep in my definition, but I do know this: the picture that's painted in our hearts is that if he's talking to the young man here, we go back and he says, my son, he's directing this to the male of the species, and he's saying, these are the things you need to watch out for. These are the things you need to be aware of. So, young men, he says, pay attention to this, observe this. If you follow the way of an immoral woman, the only place it will lead you is to hell. The only thing that'll happen is you will lose that which you value, which is your relationship and your course of life with God. Ah, Proverbs. There's so much meat. There's so much richness and goodness in these first 7 Proverbs that are written and directed to our children. And if your children, if you train them up, if you teach them the word of God, they will be better for it. And remember the word that says, and when they are old, they will not depart from it. We can only ingrain it in their hearts and show them the benefit of it. Well, Proverbs chapter 2. Thank you for being with us this morning. We look forward to allowing the wisdom of God to soak in our heart, to marinate us, so that everything we think, do, and say becomes a biblically sound life and a biblically sound course. Lord willing, we'll be back tomorrow. You have a good day.